Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 225 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing the epilogue of A Storm of Swords.
The epilogue? Does that mean the end?
The end.
Oh my goodness.
The end is near.
The end is near. Well, as always, we're going to chat about this chapter. We're going to try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge a little pedantry and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes and provide some additional information about the characters and other things of interest in this chapter. How are you, Mackelly?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad that you have something written in witty banter. I hope it's not old, because as I was walking past Stacy on my way down here to record, I said, hey, did anything weird or interesting or funny happen to me since last time I recorded? And she went, nope, I knew you were going to ask me that. And I was like,
oh, that was good of her to be paying attention,
yeah.
You know?
She said, that's a good thing.
It's funnily enough, it's new to the notes, but it is actually a week old. I was supposed to tell this last week and I forgot all about it.
Oh, okay, good. Well, glad you forgot, or else we would just be sitting here staring at each other.
So, so last Saturday, I went out for a meal with my friends Tim and Ali, and I went over to their house and we were going to go out from there, and Tim was telling me specifically that they'd been to see the local National Hockey League team, the Carolina Hurricanes, play the night before. But they'd been forced to leave the game after the first period because their daughter, who has very severe nut allergies, had to use her EpiPen on herself.
Oh, goodness.
And when you use the EpiPen, you have to go to the emergency room afterwards.
Oh, wow.
So I then said to Tim, oh, who won? I didn't know the Carolina Hurricanes score and I was interested. And this question was perceived to be a little insensitive.
Yeah, I can see how. I was picking up on that.
To the plight of their poor daughter.
Yes.
Who, last we left her, was in the emergency room.
Oh, goodness. Well, based on the light tone of this conversation, I'm guessing she is okay.
Yes, the Canes did win. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And indeed, Kelsey pulled through. They think it was cross-contamination of a spoon, that was used in nuts, and then because she didn't actually eat anything with nuts in it, but they were fine.
Wow.
But I could see as soon as I asked it, I was like, I should have perhaps waited for that question until we'd really delved into was she okay?
Yeah, hang on to that for a few more minutes.
We were going out for dinner. If something really bad had happened, I'm figuring they would have cancelled.
Yes, that's true. Well, we had these plans. We don't like to back out. We like to follow through on our agreements. So,
no matter what, come hell or high water.
Oh well, glad to hear that she is okay, and
yeah.
And that the Canes won, I guess, is a good thing for Canes fans as well.
So you're lucky to have me tonight, actually. I didn't get away from work until after 6 p.m. I was in work at 7:30 this morning, and I didn't get out till after 6.
Wow. Burning the past 6 p.m. oil there.
Exactly. And believe me, I'm the only one doing it. The whole building was like a ghost ship at that time.
Yeah, that's why they pay you the big bucks.
Apparently.
Or something. Well, this chapter, although it's kind of a one-off from the rest of the story, has a decent amount of things for us to discuss, if you noticed.
And you know what I'm very excited about for this chapter is the comparison with the television show.
Oh,
because...
okay. Yeah. I'm laughing and you haven't even said why, because I think I know why.
For people, I know at least one of our listeners has never read the books and is learning the books by listening to the podcast. There've not been any particular deviations from the books, really. I mean,
not
basically,
major. Right, yeah.
Nothing serious. Well, hold my beer.
Right. Where did they get a load of this?
Exactly. To those who've only watched the TV show, change is coming.
Right.
Well, let's get down to business then. How did we leave Merrett Frey? You may wonder why I'm asking about Merrett Frey. It's because he's the star of this little epilogue.
Who?
So we've not officially met Merrett before, but he was at the Twins when Catelyn and Lord Walder worked out their agreement to allow Robb's army to cross the Green Fork. We heard news of Merrett's middle daughter, Walder, marrying Roose Bolton. As we'll hear shortly, he was also at the Red Wedding. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this epilogue?
Okay. Well, Merrett Frey rides toward Oldstones, bemoaning his sobriety and the headaches that abstinence causes. He's staying off the sauce, well, apart from a couple beers for breakfast and a few nips from his wine flagon, because he's on an important mission. Kidnappers...
It's like my dry January, honestly.
Yeah, I know. Stacy was referring to it as damp January.
Yeah. Dry January met Friday evening. There was no contest.
Why does everybody choose January when it's like 4 months long? Choose February.
February, except in a leap year, obviously.
Right, yes, yeah. Anyway, kidnappers have his half-brother Stevron's grandson, Petyr Pimple. The outlaws want 100 gold dragons, and Merrett has been entrusted with the task of bringing the younger Frey home.
Merrett considers his unlucky life. He's not even a knight, because as a squire, he was hit in the head in a battle with the Kingswood Brotherhood so hard that he was never the same again. He's since been plagued by headaches, and even the mildest blow to a helm reduces him to tears. As the 9th son of Lord Walder, he never expected to amount to much, but now his father refers to him as Muttonhead.
Oh boy. His diminished status means that he was entrusted with almost nothing at the Red Wedding. His role was to drink with the Greatjon Umber so that the big man couldn't fight. A task he was well suited for, but unable to succeed in. Despite imbibing enough to down an aurochs, Umber was still more than able to fight when the time came. 4 men were killed, and it took 8 to finally chain him. Merrett worries about his future. His own future, not Greatjon Umber's future.
I mean, he probably would if he thought about it, but I'm pretty sure he's not thinking about the Greatjon anymore.
Not at the moment. Yeah. Lord Walder, for all his meanness, places blood ties over everything. But Merrett is not so sure that will still be the case when his nephew Ryman inherits. But Petyr is Ryman's son, so completing this task might change Merrett's rotten luck.
When Merrett arrives at Oldstones, he's surrounded by the Brotherhood without banners. Jack Be Lucky liberates the ransom gold. Merrett demands to see Lord Beric, and the brothers take turns in claiming to be Dondarrion, before admitting that he's not actually around. Merrett's taken to see his great nephew. He finds him swinging from a tree.
By his neck, unfortunately.
Yeah, not just playing.
Yeah.
Not just on a swing.
Just to be clear.
Look at me, uncle.
Merrett's terrified, but he puts up a front about them never daring to hang a Frey, which is quite ironic, being that he's standing in front of a hanged Frey.
Yeah.
Lem says that Petyr said the same thing. Jack Be Lucky ties a noose around Merrett's neck and tosses the other end of the rope over a branch. But Tom Sevenstrings intervenes and tells Merrett to relax. If he answers a simple question, Tom will tell them to let Merrett go free. Merrett is all too eager to agree to this plan. It seems that the Brotherhood is looking for Sandor Clegane and a small girl, or boy, that he's traveling with. They were told that he was headed for the Twins, and they want to know, did he arrive?
Unfortunately, it's not a question Merrett knows the answer to. He'd neither seen nor heard about the Hound's presence at the Red Wedding. Tom says it's up he goes then, but Merrett knows the outlaws have a code and won't string him up without a trial. He's innocent and he has children.
Tom reminds him that the young wolf won't ever have children. Merrett responds that it was vengeance for the shame Robb Stark brought on House Frey, and besides, he had nothing to do with any of that. It was his father and brother Lothar, his nephew Ryman, and Roose Bolton who did the plotting for the Red Wedding, and they have no proof of any wrongdoing on his part, so they must let him go.
Unfortunately for Merrett, the Brotherhood have a witness to his involvement in the wedding. They part to reveal a woman. She's frightening to behold. Her skin looks like pudding, her face mottled grey-green and streaked with gouges from her eyes to her jaw. Large chunks of her hair are missing. What remains is white and brittle. But still, Merrett recognizes her, and she him.
Merrett sees the hate in her eyes. Lem says she can't speak. The cut to her throat is too deep for that. Lem asks the woman if Merrett was part of the atrocities committed during the wedding. Catelyn Stark's eyes never leave Merrett. She simply nods. And with that, the rope tightens and he begins to choke as he rises.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Yeah, so that's a closer right there.
It is. That's how we end the book.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Well, apart from the 150-page appendix, which we're not going to do an episode on.
No. Maybe that'll be after we finish all the books. We'll go back and do all the appendixes. So that's it. We have finished A Storm of Swords.
We have, yes. It's amazing. You say it's similar to the prologue? How is it similar to the prologue?
Well, in just that both of the characters, remember Chet was the prologue character.
Oh, it was Chet. I was thinking it was I was thinking it was Maester Crescent, but that was a whole book ago.
Yes,
it was Chet this time. So go on, what's the similarity with the Chet prologue then?
Well, just that they're both known. We knew that Chet existed. We knew that Merrett Frey existed, but they were both outside of the main sphere of focus, except for in this one isolated chapter. And they're both POV only one time because they both die at the end of the chapter. Now, Merrett we actually see die. Chet we just know that he died.
No, he died later, yeah. And also both of them at the hands of the undead.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Whites killed Chet, and a reanimated Catelyn Stark kills Merrett here, or at least, she doesn't do the physical killing.
Without her, they wouldn't have done it, it seems.
Right, yeah.
Although, I've noticed the Brotherhood is pretty flexible when it wants to be with its own rules.
Yeah. And they're also both, Chet and Merrett are both very flawed men as we get their POVs. We get inside their heads and we hear just how...
We're all flawed, though.
We are, yeah.
My own POV would be disturbing to everyone. It's like listening to my outtakes. It's like, wow, he's not the same guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. If we were POV characters, that would be, people listening in to every thought you have about every situation, that would be frightening, quite honestly.
If I knew I was a POV character, I would curb my thoughts.
Right.
I wouldn't want people to know the truth.
Don't think anything. Don't think like at the end of Ghostbusters, when they're all supposed to think about nothing.
So give me some more background on Merrett, because I don't really remember Merrett very well at all.
Yeah, well, one thing, the first thing I'll mention is that we know Merritt's son better than we know Merrett, because
help me out.
His son is named Walder. Which really narrows it down, huh?
Oh, yeah. I know him like the back of my hand, yeah.
His son is actually Little Walder, who was featured heavily in the Bran chapters with his cousin, his smaller cousin, Big Walder.
Right, yes. He heavily featured as well.
Yes.
Because he's big.
Yes. I get it now.
Feed you the joke. Explain the joke.
Now I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Mm-hmm. Merritt's complaining about the snow. It actually stopped snowing, but there was snow on the ground. It's unusual basically he calls it autumn, right? So
Yeah.
but it's the end of summer for snow to be this far south. We have worried for several books about the storehouses of the Riverlands and further north, and how they're not going to be ready for a long winter. This can't help, because this is going to hurt crops that still haven't been harvested yet.
Absolutely. I know when humans get focused on war, they usually forget all else. But cooler heads would have to see the disaster that they're headed for here. I think he says we've lost 2 of the past 3 harvests. And, that coupled with just the war and destruction from the war so close to the onset of winter. And we're not talking the usual Earth winters where, you suffer for several months and then you get a spring. We're talking possibly year-long winters, exactly. Multi-year winter, possibly. And, I was thinking about it. Those fortunate enough, and I put that in quotes, fortunate enough to survive this war in the Riverlands, they very well, as their reward, might still die of starvation in the elements because of this, because of the destruction of their home area.
I wonder, obviously, over the last 300 years, the Seven Kingdoms have been plagued by war many times, and they have these abnormally long winters. I wonder if it leads to a lot of migration, and particularly migration south. I wonder if, because you can imagine the Riverlands, let's assume peace has arrived now in the Seven Kingdoms. The citizens of the Riverlands might head south.
Yes.
Towards the Reach, for instance, which should be much more able to feed its citizens.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the forthcoming winter.
Yeah, exactly.
And the winter will be milder there. They might still be able to grow some crops,
Yeah, that might... we just saw the influx of refugees during the war into King's Landing. And if winter sets in and you have no food, you really don't have any choice but to try and make it to somewhere where there might be food and or shelter.
So we know Merrett's son, and we've heard of Petyr Pimple, but as always, I can never remember who he is. Help me out, Mackelly.
Well, we've only briefly met Petyr Pimple. The most interaction we had with him was he and his older brothers rode out to greet Robb and Cat as the welcoming party when they arrived at the Twins. And you remember Grey Wind scared the horses and Peter's horse threw him, and Walder complained about it to Robb, saying he could have been injured. And
was this the Red Wedding visit to the Twins, or the crossing?
It was, yeah.
The Red Wedding.
I think the reason Walder mentioned it was as an excuse to keep Grey Wind out of the main castle.
Right.
So at the last we saw of Petyr Pimple, he was passed out drunk at the Red Wedding, trying to compete in drinking with the Greatjon.
See, Merrett didn't pass out. Merrett claims to be the best drinker amongst the Freys, so he at least didn't pass out. But he was genuinely impressed by the Greatjon's ability to still fight after what he drank.
Yeah.
So his inner monologue is, a lot of it is sort of self-pitying, and he's definitely been unlucky in life, and as the 9th son, he's not got a lot to look forward to, especially because now, because of their rules of succession, when the eldest son was Stevron, right?
Yeah.
When he died, it didn't pass down the line. He didn't get any closer because it went to Stevron's son, right?
Yes, Ryman. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I think at one point Merrett thinks, I'm closer to being named High Septon than I am to inherit the Twins. So,
But it is an interesting insight into Lord Walder that he put such an emphasis on family ties that Merrett has always felt, home in the Twins.
Yeah.
But that he worries that lesson has not been learned by Stevron and now Ryman, and that when Ryman takes over, some of these hangers-on might be told to go and find their own way in life. And that's bad news for Merrett.
Yeah, he can't fight anymore because of his unfortunate head and injury that causes chronic migraines.
And there's only so much call for drinking Umbers on the table.
There is. It's a very niche skill. Well, he can't. So he can't travel around the realm and be a tourney knight. Okay, I get that. But maybe he could travel around the realm, betting people that he could outdrink them.
Well,
You know,
that's true.
so that might be a useful traveling skill.
I'm not sure you can make a living off it, but yeah, it's an interesting idea.
Especially when you're a husband with 4 children.
Yeah. So untangle the spaghetti of House Frey a little bit for us.
All right. Well, just we get some cool, juicy, interesting gossip here about House Frey and their interworkings and relationships and scandals. And I got to say, none of it was really surprising. I'd been more surprised if I discovered that it was all very Stark-like. And I mean, House Stark-like in order and structure, because we know the Lord of House Frey and he's rotten. And just like all organizations, it trickles down from the top, whatever is being, delivered at the top there.
So go on, help me. Having read this, I've forgotten what makes you think the Freys are more rotten than we already thought they were from this.
One of the more salacious things we learn is that Black Walder, who is the older brother of Petyr Pimple, who Merrett was trying to rescue here, and Black Walder has an older brother named Edwin, and they are all sons of Ryman, who is the heir now to Lord Walder.
Right.
Okay. Well, it turns out that Black Walder is just sleeping with his brother's wives left and right, and even sleeping with one of their own, another Frey, with Fair Walda, who Black Walder and Fair Walda share a grandfather, Stevron.
So they're cousins.
Yes, they're not. It's not even like one was this branch of the Frey family, and then another is like the 7th Frey's offspring.
Do they also share a grandmother? Do you happen to know?
It's complicated. I think maybe they don't.
Yeah, that's. I realized I was throwing a hard question at you there, but half cousins is slightly less awful than full first cousins.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's true.
You only have quarter of your DNA in common, not a full half.
He's still not great. So yeah, like I mentioned, Petyr is the youngest, Ryman's youngest. Edwin is Ryman's oldest. Black Walder is the middle son. So Black Walder, according to Merrett, is sleeping with Petyr's wife, and Petyr's wife is Melinda Karen. And the unique thing about Petyr and Melinda's marriage is that she was 3 times his age when they got married. He was 10, she was 30. So now she's 40, he's 20. Oh. Apparently, Black Walder.
I like the fact it's gone from a third to a half.
Right? Yeah, they keep.
Eventually, he'll catch her up at this rate.
Unfortunately, he won't.
Good point. Actually,
yeah.
I was trying to figure out what you meant, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
right."
Pretty hard stop on his getting older.
Yeah. Next, though, we have Edwin's wife. Black Walder is also so he's sleeping with his younger brother's wife and his older brother's wife. Now, her name is Janice Hunter. I'm not going to go into much detail on her because there's really not a whole lot to say. I mentioned that he is rumored to be sleeping with Fair Walda, his cousin. And it's also rumored that he is sleeping with not currently because she is no longer with us, that he had known the 7th Lady Frey better than he ought to have known her. That was Inara Ferens, and the closest relationship I can give you that you might remember is she is Elmar Frey's mother. Elmar was the one that was supposed to marry Arya. That was at Harrenhal with her. So, yeah, that's some of the salacious details we get there.
Yeah, and you made the point to me that Ryman's line is a little bit thin. He has Edwin, who has no sons. Black Walder has plenty of children, but none in wedlock. And now Petyr's dead. I mean, the thing about the phrase, though, you don't really have to worry too much about the succession because there's always another one.
Yes, I guess it depends on if you want your direct descendants to continue to be in line. I'm sure the other phrase would be more than happy for Ryman's children to not have any more children.
to
You know?
die without issue. Yes.
Yes, yeah.
How old do we think Edwin is?
I don't know.
Because
Off the top of my
Peter's
head.
only 20, right?
Yes.
So Edwin could still be young enough to have children. It's
He
not
could,
that
certainly.
He's not in his 60s or anything like that.
I do not believe that he is.
Uh,
But Merritt's wife, okay. Oh, and one other thing that just was I found noteworthy that Merrett mentions is that it is a known thing in the twins that only full-blood siblings can be trusted, and that is just barely. And I thought, that's so they do it by who your mother was, basically, you know.
Right. Oh, so they're not saying you can't trust any bastards. They're saying you can't trust a half sibling who isn't a bastard either.
Right. Yes.
Ah, interesting.
Anyone who is not from your same mother and father is not to be fully trusted. I thought that was something worth noting.
Yeah, so Merritt's wife is Maria Darry, and it's not a bad marriage for the 9th son of Walder, especially given Merritt's problems. We know the Darrys were a well-respected family in the Targaryen days. Maybe, well, so yeah, but I was going to say maybe their fortunes took a downturn when they backed the Targaryens. But I think by timing, he must have married Maria Darry before.
Yes.
Yeah,
He did. I believe he said, and then shortly after, thought to himself, and then shortly after, they fell out of favor because of the Targaryens being ousted.
Yeah. So it's quite a good marriage, really. It's, given his prospects were so poor.
Right. Yeah. And they have a daughter, Fat Walda. She is the one that Roose Bolton married. And Lord Walder was annoyed with Merrett because Roose choosing that particular female Frey cost the Freys more in dowry than if he had chosen someone who was slimmer. And you remember, I think you might remember that Roose, I think he specifically told Jaime and Brienne that Lord Walder said you can you can have your bride's weight in gold as your dowry for whoever you choose. So he chose the heaviest option that he had, and he's mad at Merrett for that. But it's not Merritt's fault. It was Walder that made that deal. He could have said, of these 4 ladies, you can have similarly
or he could have
weighted
looked
ladies.
around the room before saying it.
Yes.
Get her out of here.
Right. I'm about to make a deal. I don't want her in anyone's sight right now. So
perhaps, to be fair to Walder, perhaps he underestimated Roose Bolton's greed.
yeah, maybe he thought he'd be more into looks than into
I have
gold.
some pretty ones. I have some ones that are high up in the echelons of the phrase. And then I have my 9th son's heavy daughter.
Yes.
Why would he choose her? Well,
Yeah. But, part of the reason Merrett, he describes himself as a pretty thick, stocky guy, too. And obviously, Walda seems to fit that as well. And he mentions that he's almost as thick and stocky as his older brother Hostine, who is considered to be the strongest of all the Freys. And, I was thinking, I think I know why that is. So I went and looked it up. And yes, it's because their mother was the Craycall. And Craycalls are known for their robustness. And so, they've got a thick stock there.
right. And Craycall comes into Merritt's story not just through his mother, but also because as a child he was squired there, along with one Jaime Lannister.
Right.
So he knew Jaime, and actually they were on similar paths until this knock on the head he took, which is, concussions are bad. Concussions can change your life a little bit,
Absolutely. Concussions have ruined sports careers of, huge sports stars. It's not something to mess with. But it's just more of that bad luck that he talks about. Could have been Jaime that got hit in the head with that sword, but instead
and if
it was
that
him.
had happened, then Merrett would be sleeping with Cersei right
Maybe.
I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, I realise.
Yeah, maybe a little, but, we'll go with it.
So Merrett also provides us with some behind-the-scenes planning for the Red Wedding. The primary plotters being Lame Lothar, who we've met before, Roose Bolton, Ryman Lannister, the new heir, and Lord Walder himself. So this is not a low-grade plan. This was the upper echelons were the ones discussing this.
Yeah, and Ryman and Lord Walder you could see because Lord Walder is the Lord of the twins,
Yes.
and Ryman is his heir.
Yes.
Lame Lothar was a bit of a surprise, though. He was so courteous and kind and hospitable to Cat when she was at the twins, but then secretly plotting her house's destruction, which, that is... Merrett mentions that he is wary of Lame Lothar, and you can certainly get an idea of why.
Right, because clearly he can smile while stabbing you. Yes.
Yeah, and that line up there, that foursome, it also shows just how traitorous Roose truly was. He wasn't just going along with the Frey plan to betray Robb. He was heavily involved in the plotting of it all. So I thought that was something. I thought it was useful to know who the primary people involved were. And he mentions that Lame Lothar choreographed the wedding down to what songs would be played when, where to hide the crossbowmen. He's the one that rigged the tents to collapse on the non-Frey army.
Yeah,
and he created the assignments for the Freys.
Yeah,
so
Merrett's assignment, as we said, was to get the Greatjon drunk. The most interesting part of that story is the fact that the Greatjon was taken alive. Because our POV characters died at the Red Wedding, we didn't get a lot of background into who survived, but we do know that now that the Greatjon survived. Are they hoping to ransom him?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Why? Maybe they put him in chains because they got tired of trying to kill him. Maybe, too. He bit off someone's ear after they put him in chains. They're like, just leave him.
Did you ever see the movie Me, Myself, and Irene?
Yes,
with Jim
very
Carrey?
funny movie.
Do you remember when he finds the cow knocked down in the road and he shoots it? And then he shoots it again, and he shoots it like 8 more times, and he still can't kill this thing.
Oh, gosh.
Do you remember that? The cow's been hit by a vehicle, and it's not dead, and it's sort of dying.
Yeah.
And he shoots it, but that doesn't do anything, because it's a cow. And so the day wears on.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, if I thought about, like, the actual reason why, maybe... It's because, Roose Bolton has been designated as Warden of the North, and he needs some houses to rally behind him, and so it's better to subdue the Lord of Last Hearth than to kill him. I know, we're splitting hairs here, but trying to come up with some reason.
It's hard to imagine the Greatjon Umber saying, "Okay, my liege lord Roose Bolton, I bend the knee."
Yeah, and you know why? Especially because the Small John was killed.
Right.
At the Red Wedding. So, yeah, that doesn't hold a lot of water.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
Merrett also provides us with the sort of justification for why the Freys committed the Red Wedding, which was that Robb shamed their house. And he clearly feels that quite strongly, that the whole realm was laughing at them and it would cleanse the stain on their honour.
Yeah.
He definitely feels it. And that kind of surprised me because it felt to me all along that Walder used the slight as an excuse to turn the tables.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe Merrett just drank the Kool-Aid of Walder's message.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe I'm wrong and the Freys really do care about their honor.
I think they got their talking points from the top. Whether Merrett fully believes it or not, we'll never know. But I think that, Lord Walder said these are the reasons why we're going to do this, and they agreed to it. But if you think about it, so they're going to cleanse the stain on their honor by committing the most atrocious act of betrayal of one of the most sacred rules in the realm. I'm not sure that's going to do the trick.
Good point. Yes. Yeah.
But, so one thing I thought while I was reading this chapter is that we're in the same spot that Robb and Cat were when they discussed his heir. We're here in Oldstones.
Yeah.
When it dawned on me is when Merrett saw Tom sitting on Christopher's grave and said, get off that, you're sitting on a king.
Yes.
And I was like, oh yeah, I know her. I remember when Cat and Robb were standing in this exact same spot here.
Perhaps Cat is there looking for the piece of paper that legitimizes
John.
John. Probably to burn it, knowing
Yes. Yes, I'm sure. But one thing I don't really get is if you're dealing with a band of outlaws, and I know he disparages Beric Dondarrion's Brotherhood without banners compared to the Kingswood Brotherhood that he fought in his youth, and that's how he ended up with his injury. But still, why send one man to do this with 100 gold dragons?
There's one fairly obvious explanation, which is that they were told to send only one man or they would kill Petyr Pimple. That makes a certain amount of sense. They also, honestly, the phrase maybe think that they're so invulnerable that nobody would dare to do anything to a Frey,
Yeah. It's just a simple band of broken men could have taken this gold off Merrett between Oldstones and the twins.
That's true. I would have had someone with Merrett until the last few miles, at least,
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, okay, you stay at this campfire. If I'm not back in an hour, something's gone wrong, Yeah. Instead, they ship him all the way off by himself.
Yeah. So the Brotherhood are looking for the Hound and Arya as well. They're clearly asking about both of them. They said that Thoros believed they were headed for the twins. So not unreasonable to ask Merrett if he saw them at the Red Wedding. He did not. No Frey did. No Frey basically saw them, right? Because the Hound got them out of there as quick as he could.
When he realized what was happening and they fought off the people that they did, they got out of there. But yeah, several of these men were with Arya when she suddenly disappeared shortly after the Hound demanded gold back from them and then followed them. So they probably have a pretty good idea.
That's right. They don't know they were together. That's right. They're assuming it, but they didn't know for a fact that they were together.
Right. It just the math works out that the Hound had been trailing them, and suddenly Arya disappeared. So,
which makes you think they're definitely looking for Arya, not the Hound.
Yes, I would surely think that they're doing this. They're looking for the Hound because of Cat. Because Cat wants to find Arya.
Right.
Otherwise, the Hound doesn't likely seem like he would hold much value to the Brotherhood without banners on his own. But they also might have an idea that Arya's with them because one of them mentions that they talked to the ferryman that ferried the Hound and probably mentioned a little boy or a little girl that was traveling with them. And they managed to come across the guy that he mugged, basically, and took his all of his stuff to try and pass himself off, as someone other than the Hound.
So they didn't know they were together, but they've pieced it. They've pieced it together now. They know that the Hound was traveling with her. Yeah,
unless Thoros saw it in the flames. Maybe he saw Arya and the Hound traveling toward the twins or something.
Yeah. I wondered if when Arya wolf dreamed Nymeria seeing Cat dead, if she led the Brotherhood to the body. Remember, Nymeria dragged the body out of the river and she ran off when men approached. And we had a feeling the men that were approaching were the Brotherhood, right?
We did have that feeling, yes.
She said that they wore various colours. They were not
right
from one. So is it possible she did it on purpose? I mean, again, I'm not sure how strong the connection is between Arya and Nymeria, but Arya asked Thoros if he could bring Ned back to life, and he said, no, you can't do it after a long period of time. But Nymeria perhaps led the Brotherhood to Kat's body, and now she's been brought back to life. I suppose, and that doesn't say, does it? I'm not sure it said it in this chapter, that it was done by Thoros.
Yeah, you're right. It is not said that it was done by Thoros, but we do know that Thoros is a man who can bring dead people back to life. So there is certainly a correlation that you could make there.
Yeah. So my question about her, and I mean, I'm sort of jumping around in the story a little bit, but is she still in there? I mean, they say she can't talk. Now, that's an interesting difference between Thoros bringing Beric back, because Beric has been very badly injured in some of his deaths.
Yes. But
he is back to it. I mean, he can fight still, but he's had like wounds all the way through his shoulder, which feels like it would stop him from fighting if Thoros' bringing him back didn't also heal him to an extent. Now, Cat was dead for longer, but they can't. It's not curing her throat, so we're not going to know from her if she's herself. She looks horrible and terrible, but it could just be physical. She might be herself within there. Might we get more POVs of her, and then we'll know? Maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe her POVs will just be like, brains.
Frey brains only.
Yeah, Frey brains.
Or Lannister brains, I guess. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned it, that, yeah, Thoros healed a little more fully, which would lead you to believe that, I mean, it'd be a small reason to think maybe it wasn't Thoros, but if it wasn't Thoros, something else very unusual.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's a timing thing. Or maybe it's just the depth of the cut, that no matter what you do, you couldn't bring back her voice,
Right. Yes.
But
the timing thing makes sense. She was dead for days and then thrown into a river.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I'll just say from a storyline perspective, I guess in some ways you possibly see why Robb was so mutilated and decapitated, because if he was brought back to life too, then his reign as king continues, and that complicates some of the storylines that Martin is trying to weave together here in the vacuum of Robb's
I'd say
reign.
Cat coming back to life complicates some storylines too. Honestly.
It does. Yes, it does.
Yeah. My guess is she's damaged. My guess is that she's not herself. Because why else would she hang out with the Brotherhood? I mean, I'm not sure what she would do if she was herself, but why hang out with the Brotherhood? Just to get revenge on the Freys? Yeah, she'd like that revenge on the Freys, but she'd really like to see her kids again.
Yeah. I mean, she thinks all of her kids, although, except for Arya now, maybe that is why. Maybe she feels like the Brotherhood know that they knew Arya.
Oh.
She is looking for Arya. They might help her recover Arya.
Very true. Very true. So my last question about this whole thing is, did Thoros bring her back because of his interaction with Arya? He doesn't bring people back willy-nilly. He brings Beric Dondarrion back.
Right.
Because Arya asked him, and it touched him at the time, if he could bring back her father.
Yeah, I remember.
Did he think to do this for that reason? I will say that the Brotherhood are taking sides more than they have done in the past here.
They are, yeah. I mean, they told Arya and Gendry and Hot Pie, when they were explaining what they are, they were Robert Baratheon's men. They were
right.
They weren't in the war for the war. They were in it for the people of the Riverlands. So either this group has splintered off and is going on this single-minded mission of trying to find the Hound and Arya, or the Brotherhood is changing their mission statement, I guess. But, to answer your question about Arya and Thoros, you're right. It's not like he went around bringing back every brother, every member of the Brotherhood back to life when they died. So there does feel like there's something unique and special going on here. And it with the information we have now, it very well could be that he couldn't bring Ned back to life for Arya, but he could bring her mother back. And so. You know, Petyr and Merrett both get hanged here in this chapter, and it kind of reminds me of Davos saying that the Freys are cursed for breaking guest right when he heard about the Red Wedding. So what do you think? Are we being set up to start seeing a stream of bad fortune befalling the house because of this guest right?
My guess is yes. My guess is that Davos is the voice of George Martin, and he's predicting the future with some accuracy. So yes, clearly this is 2 bad outcomes for House Frey in quick succession.
Yeah.
Let's keep an eye on, see if more come along.
Yeah. I will say that it is not necessarily George Martin's style for bad people to get bad endings and vice versa, but...
No, it's George Martin's style for pretty much everyone to get bad endings, honestly.
Yes, it is. But, you know,
this whole cat coming back to life is a bizarrely gentle version of George Martin, but...
Yeah.
But she is... One thing is if he wants to do that, he's got the perfect tool now in Cat herself.
Yes.
Because if she keeps pointing to the guilty phrase, which, let's be honest, it's any Frey will do.
Right.
They were all complicit in some ways.
And that's pretty clear that that's her mindset at the very end of this chapter when Merrett says, I haven't done anything wrong. All I was tasked with was getting the Greatjon Umber drunk. It was my brothers and Roose Bolton and my father that were responsible. And they ask Catelyn, was he involved? And she nods and says, yes. So, maybe she doesn't know whether or not he was involved, but he's a Frey. And so therefore he's guilty. He's as guilty as the Hound was of the crimes that the Brotherhood laid at his feet that were actually his brother Gregor's doing.
Right. And it is funny that Merrett thinks while seeing a hung Frey that you would never hang a Frey.
Yes. Yeah. I hope to never
you might
be
stumble
in that
across one, but you wouldn't do it yourself.
You wouldn't do it yourself. I hope to never be in that situation, but I imagine I would say stupid things if I were.
Very good point, Mackelly Ray. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true.
I think he thinks at one point the last of his courage was running down his leg. So again, just like the prologue. When
Chet, he wet himself. He did.
He had a similar accident.
Bookended.
Yes, that's right. The book is bookended with pants wetting.
Pant wetting, yes. All right, do you have some background for us?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to discuss just how bad Merrett's luck might have been and how he and Lord Walder just missed out on possibly a great opportunity. So Merrett talks poorly of his wife Marria Derry, how she's a shrew and despises him, and all that. It is very sad and unfortunate that that he felt that his wife thought those things of him. And with his negative outlook on life, who knows how true that actually is? He might just be seeing everything half empty. But anyway, if things had broken just slightly differently, Merrett's wife could have been the key to a whole different life for Merrett. And I'll tell you how. So when our story, and I mean A Song of Ice and Fire, when I say our story, started, it seemed as though Raymond Derry was the Lord of Derry. It was never explicitly said, but that's kind of the feeling you get, is that Raymond Derry was Lord of Derry. Ned sent Raymond with Beric Dondarrion to kill the Mountain. Unfortunately, Raymond was killed in the battle at Mummer's Ford, fighting against the Mountain's men. Then his young son Lyman became Lord of Derry. Lyman was then killed by the Mountain when his men retook Castle Derry. Lyman's death left a dearth of male heirs in the Derry line. The next oldest Derry is Raymond's sister, Merrett Frey, Merrett's wife. Unfortunately for Merrett, between Lyman's death and Lord Walder entering into negotiations for an alliance with Tywin Lannister, Lancel Lannister was made Lord of Derry after the Battle of the Blackwater. Had things fallen just slightly different on the timeline, Walder could surely have made the case that part of the agreement for their role in the Red Wedding is that Merrett be made Lord of Derry through Merrett's wife's claim to the title, pretty much the same thing that Tywin planned to do with Tyrion and Sansa in Winterfell.
Is Lancel still alive?
He is.
He is?
He is
Because he
still
was
alive.
very sick last time we saw him, right?
Right.
The last
yes.
time we heard about it.
Yes, he was.
Well, maybe. Bit of luck, it could still happen, Merrett. Oh, well, not for Merrett.
Not for Merrett, no.
No. Not for Petyr or Merrett. I got it.
No,
I got to remember they're definitely dead, and Thoros is not bringing them back, right?
I don't think so. That would be quite the change of heart right there.
So, comparison with the television show, I can say it for the first time, entirely dropped. They just did away with this whole thread of the story. It doesn't mean it won't be important in the books, and because the divergence between the books and the show grows all the time. But this entire plot line was not carried forward into the TV show.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. They had to pair
be
a
careful,
lot of
be careful because
storylines.
Yeah, exactly. This might be the most important storyline in the books, for all we know.
Right. Yeah.
We have
could be.
no idea.
But the Game of Thrones had to go on.
Yeah.
Without knowing how any of this stuff is going to wrap up.
And had to tie some things up as well. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Petyr Pimple, we mentioned it, but more time did pass. But Thoros, when he brought Beric back, he brought him back whole. The wounds that he'd received in dying were never an impediment to him in his next life. But that's not the case for Cat. Maybe it is just a matter of timing, but it's a difference.
It could be timing and being, floating in a river for days. All those things may have made it too difficult. Yeah.
News and notes. The artist behind the 2025 A Song of Ice and Fire calendar was recently announced. Eddie Mendoza will create the 13 images that make up the calendar, along with a bonus fold-out poster. Pre-orders haven't begun yet, but George Martin posted a picture of the cover on his blog. It's an amazing image of Starfall, seat of House Dane in Dawn. So if the rest of the images will be of that caliber, the calendar is going to be a huge success.
That it is. It's very cool. Very cool image. Makes me want to get on that pre-order list. Mm-hmm. And then I remember how cheap I am, and I probably won't since I really don't have a use for a calendar.
Way ahead of you.
In other news, George Martin and his wife Paris were at the Rosewood Mayakoba Resort in the Yucatan recently. The couple were presented with quite the treasure from the resort's baker/chocolatier. Left in their suite was a rather large replica of the Iron Throne made entirely of chocolate. Not only was the throne made of chocolate, but it was accompanied by a chocolate dragon and chocolate skulls. So it was pretty cool. But he showed a picture of it on the blog. It was pretty neat. I'll repost the image of the calendar and the chocolate throne on our social medias.
Good. And we're not taking a break next week like we usually do between the books because we've just had a bit of a break. So we're fresh and ready to get rolling on A Feast for Crows.
That's right. It's news that we're not taking a break.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So be sure to tune in next week, I guess, is the moral
honestly,
of that
it's news to me when I opened the the script for today. I was like, oh, we're not.
Oh, we're not. Oh.
Glad we talked that through. All right. So conclusion. Thoros works his magic again, and the Brotherhood appear to have definitely taken a side, and they're out hunting the Freys. Maybe they see that as a continuing mission of fighting for Robert Baratheon, but it feels a little bit like you're taking a side in the current wars, not the past ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to think of another reason that there would be a reanimated Catelyn Stark aside from Thoros working his magic again. We haven't been specifically told that, but we haven't been told that it was anything else yet. So certainly feels
and she's
like
with the Brotherhood. If she wasn't with the Brotherhood,
yes, then you might think it was the others.
Right, exactly. Who knows?
A rogue other got past the wall and reanimated Catelyn Stark. And we saw those men riding toward her body when we were looking through Nymeria's eyes. So it all fits, but...
maybe it's just the healing waters of the Riverlands.
It could be. Could be that, yeah. I will say it's, it's kind of... I don't know if I want to say I feel for Merrett. In some ways, I do, because he was one of the least guilty Freys, and there were a few Freys who were specifically not at the Red Wedding, and I think that's because they couldn't have been trusted to go along with this plan. So maybe there was a, hey, raise your hand if you can't be trusted to go along with this plan, and Merrett didn't raise his hand. So...
He was too drunk. So,
But there was certainly more guilty Freys that were more deserving of this, I guess.
well, we just know now that the list is going to be long for who
Yes.
Kat's after.
Uh-huh.
So has Kat's story got more to it? Is she going to get reunited with her kids? I mean, she doesn't know. She doesn't know what's happened to Sansa. She now believes that Arya is alive. If she can understand what the Brotherhood are saying.
Yeah, she answered their question when they asked, was he involved?
That's right. She does understand. Exactly. She understands. So, unless she's just so hell-bent on revenge, all she hears is that a Frey? Yes.
Right. Yes. And she nods. Yeah.
So, but that's exciting for her because she died not knowing Arya was alive.
That is true. She might have gotten actually good news post-mortem.
Yeah. Well,
So
pretty much any news you receive after death is got to be... that's not true. There's worse things that could happen, yes.
Yeah, the fact that you can receive news after death,
yeah, that's the good news.
Silver lining, yeah.
Yeah.
And can I just say that Merrett fell into the common trap because he spends a lot of this book, we're in his head. I mean, there is maybe 15 lines of actual dialogue at the end of this chapter. The whole rest of it is just Merrett thinking as he rides up to meet the Brotherhood. And he is just so negative about his life and how unlucky he is and how miserable everything around him is and how he's got no prospects for life. And so I just felt like he fell into the common trap of thinking life was so awful until he was faced with losing it. Kind of like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. You know, you never saw It's a Wonderful Life?
No.
Jimmy Stewart?
I'm sure it was, yeah.
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. No?
I mean, American cultural references. Some I know.
You know who Jimmy
don't.
Stewart is, right?
He's an actor.
He is,
From
yes.
the old days.
He and I grew up in the same hometown. We graduated from the same high school. How about that?
A guy I couldn't pick out of a lineup went to the same high school as you?
Yeah. Only about maybe 70 years, maybe more before me, but still same high school. But anyway, my point is when it was time for him to lose his life, then he was like, no, I want to live.
Yes. Most of us remember the good times when faced with that.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's quickly summarize the Storm of Swords, because nothing's happened much. So we lost Cat and Rob, although we haven't necessarily lost Cat completely. We lost Joffrey Baratheon. We lost Tywin Lannister. We lost Shae. We lost Hoster Tully, Balon Greyjoy, Dontas Hollard, Lysa Arryn very recently, Oberyn Martell, Dalla, wife of Mance Rayder, and they'll all be missed apart from some of them.
Some of them will be missed more than others. And let's face it, the Clegane brothers aren't exactly looking good either.
Oh yeah, both of them are left howling to die.
Yeah,
at least one of them receiving some attention.
Yes, right. The Mountain was dying from the poisoned spear of Oberyn Martell, and Tywin commanded that Grand Maester Pycelle fix him, but Grand Maester Pycelle at that point was saying, there's nothing I can do here. Right. I don't know what the poison was. I don't know how to fix him. And the Hound was left for dead by Arya from wounds that he suffered in that fight at the crossroads.
Yeah.
So
Arya herself is en route to Essos, although a lookalike is en route to the Dreadfort to marry Ramsay to bolster the Bolton's grip on the north. Yeah,
and Bran, he left Winterfell, and he's gone north of the Wall with the Reeds, Hodor, and Cold Hands, and Summer, possibly riding on the back of a giant elk. So
that'll be a relief to Hodor.
Right, that's true. Hodor could probably use a break.
Jon is now Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, potentially passing up the chance to become Jon Stark, Lord of Winterfell.
Meanwhile, Tyrion has fled King's Landing, having killed his father and his love, Shae. And he was supposed to be heading to Essos, but he took this detour to commit this double murder, and now we don't know whether he will make it to his ship or not.
Ah, that's true. Yeah. Dany was last seen sitting atop the Great Pyramid in Meereen, having dismissed Ser Jorah for spying on her for Robert Baratheon.
But she's got Ser Barristan now, so you know.
That's true.
I mean,
very true.
If you're talking Royal Kingsguard, that's kind of an upgrade, quite honestly.
Yeah, true.
You know, but and Jorah, we don't know. We don't know where Jorah's going to go from here.
That's very true. Right?
Yeah, he was kicked out. We don't know. But Theon, we didn't see Theon once in this whole book. So,
yeah.
you know, he's presumably dead. But if he's not, he's also kind of the heir to the Sea Stone Chair, sort of.
Yes,
the Iron Islands don't exactly work that way, but he's got a claim anyway.
Yeah. I put in the notes there that he's heir apparent, and it occurred to me I didn't know what heir apparent meant. And I looked it up. It's an heir who can't be dislodged by the birth of a new child.
Oh, well.
So, for example, if Stevron didn't have any children, if Stevron became Lord of Winterfell, then his next eldest brother would be the heir, but he wouldn't be heir apparent, because if Stevron had a child, that child would become the heir.
Right.
So it's an heir who can't be dislodged by a birth.
Okay, so many years ago, when Lord Walder had his first child, Stevron, and then a second child, Stevron was heir apparent because no one could pass him in line.
Him. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So Ryman is now, or Ryman Frey is now Lord Walder's heir apparent.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. That does not seem to fit Theon necessarily because...
No,
Iron
because
Islands,
yes, because the Iron Islands have their own rules, yeah. Sansa is in the area with Littlefinger and untrammeled power. His, not hers, unfortunately.
Yes, quite unfortunately. And is there another Stark to mention?
Rickon.
Rickon. Rickon. Yes.
Yes.
We don't know where Rickon is. He left with Osha, headed toward White Harbor or somewhere south of Winterfell, the last we heard. It could have been him that brought Cat back for all we know.
True.
Who knows what he's up to?
Jaime is Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, minus a hand, and missing an eldest son as well.
Yeah. And speaking of Jaime, Brienne has left King's Landing armed with Oathkeeper, which was given to her by Jaime, to find and save the Stark girls. And that might prove to be a challenging task. At least one of them seems to be headed across the Narrow Sea, and the other is possibly in the hardest place to access in all of Westeros, sitting atop the Giant's Lance in the Eyrie. Mm-hmm. So good luck to her and her task.
Yeah. And Davos Seaworth, we don't have a clue really where Davos is. Last we saw of him, he was on Dragonstone. But his boss, Stannis, and Melisandre are at the wall, announcing loudly that they want to let the wildlings through because they want to fight the true enemy.
Yeah. And I think that about covers everyone.
That's the ones I can remember.
We may have missed a person or two. Yeah, plus Rickon. We even got Rickon in there. This is my favorite book of the existing books.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's the middle book, and so much happens in this book, and it's my favorite of the five.
Yeah, it is a terrific book. I mean, with the red wedding and the purple wedding and the Tywin's comeuppance, and Jaime's hand,
and Cat being reanimated here in this chapter. Robb, Jon being offered Lord Commander. I mean, being offered Lord of Winterfell, and then in a surprise turn of events, becoming Lord Commander. It really just so many things turn in this book.
Yeah, and we want to thank you all for coming with us through the journey. Join us next week for the Feast of Crows, because there wasn't enough death in this one.
Yes, no. Maybe it's just corn. The Feast for Crows is just a bunch of corn. Oh, and I just wanted to mention that we won't be doing the boiled leather style of reading A Feast for Crows along with A Dance with Dragons together. I know a lot of you have have asked us if we were going to do that, and we're not. It just doesn't fit with what we're trying to do with our show. It's a chapter-by-chapter journey through A Song of Ice and Fire. So we're going to stick to that chapter-by-chapter pattern. But just today on the Discord server, Jenny proposed that whoever wants to read in that boiled leather style, which is there is a method of reading Feast for Crows chapters and Dance with Dragon chapters interspersed in a way that works really well. And so Jenny has said, hey, if whoever's interested, let's read it that way, and we'll read, they'll read their chapters on their own. And I said, hey, I'll create a Discord channel for you guys to discuss in. And so I've done that. So if you're interested in reading that way and you want to, you want to interact with other people reading it that way, check out our boiled leather style discussion, I think it's called, channel in our Discord community.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, next up we have the prologue of A Feast for Crows. We're not going to tell you anything more about it, but come back next week.
Starting a new book. Yeah, starting a new book should be enough to bring you all back next week.
It's got all its pages and the spine isn't broken over like 1,000 times. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
There's 4 ways that you can help us. You could leave us a positive review. You can buy merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can join us at any of the various sustainer levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. You can make a donation directly to us at our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us and keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, you can always check us out on our social medias. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Discord, where you can talk about boiled leather style reading Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons. And we're also on YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.